Hey there, it's Carly with the Expat Focus podcast. I'm happy to report that we now have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, thank you if you're among the people who clicked that subscribe button to show your support. The Expat Focus YouTube channel is the place to go if you want to watch as well as listen to our episodes. You'll find all of our audio only episodes on the channel too. The continent of Africa is our destination today. We're going to be talking about living and working in Rwanda with Italian expat Giulia, who decided to take a leap away from her life in Europe to follow a job opportunity. Giulia talks about her first impressions of the city of Kigali and why it's known as the Switzerland of Africa. We also talk safety, work opportunities, and local workplace culture, Giulia's experience with the healthcare system, choosing to not learn the local language, ordering warm beer, and the personal growth that happens when you leave your comfort zone. Giulia, I'm speaking to you after you've just been for a run and I've just decided to skip my gym session to cook myself a meal. So I'm in full food coma mode. It's basically like the balance of opposites right now.
Yeah, which is quite funny because I'm very lazy person myself. So I really tried very hard to motivate me for the run, and this is why I kept like postponing. Yeah, let's talk
30
at
more
9.
minutes.
Let's talk at 9:30. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
like
well, I think that's very disciplined of you, and I need to do a bit of that myself. But thank you very much
yeah,
for coming on the Expat Focus podcast. It's great to have you here.
welcome, welcome. It's the first time I'm ever doing a podcast, so I'm really curious, and I hope I will be up to the expectation.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating chat because I am speaking to you while you are currently living and working in Rwanda.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
I have to say, I don't have a lot of reference points for Rwanda other than growing up in Australia, watching those ads on TV showing the emancipated children and the pleas for donations to help feed starving children in Rwanda. Is that the same kind of picture of Rwanda that you had growing up in Italy?
Um, to be honest with you, I think like growing up in Italy, I've very, very little been exposed to Rwandan history, Rwandan as as a country, and I would say also in general to Africa as a continent. So personally, growing up, yeah, I would say I didn't even see this picture, and I was thinking I've always been thinking as Africa as a continent, as something there far, whatever, like out of my world, not specifically on Rwanda, but this is personal experience, and I know it's really out of a lot of ignorance and uh, Eurocentric culture, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and the
I
same with
didn't.
Australian culture and myself completely. And I'm curious, when did Rwanda come onto your radar?
So, as many things in my life, to be honest, Rwanda came to my radar at the moment where it came with the job opportunity. So I never really thought of myself living in Rwanda. I never really imagined, even thought about, about Rwanda specifically. The long story short is at some point, I just wanted to move to Africa. And I was just randomly browsing for jobs in Africa. And this opportunity came. So for me, it was just Rwanda. Is it in Africa? Yes. And then let's just go. So really, very like I think few people I know here, many people I know here, they knew about it, and a lot of them they also like had them in their radar. For me, it was just that's what happened. So I met someone in Strasbourg that moved to Kenya. And the first time was 4 years ago. I went to visit her in Kenya. When I visited Kenya, it's kind of like a little bug that gets in your mind,
Yeah.
and they start like eating a little more every day. So I kind of start raising this thought of how my life could be to such a different environment, such a different world. Yeah, and then I just took a leap, I guess.
And what was the appeal of Africa? Or what is the appeal of Africa?
So the first time I went to Kenya, it was really, I've always been traveling, and I've always been interested in the discovering new culture, new countries, seeing. So it was just an opportunity for me to visit a new country. When I went to Kenya, actually there were many things that really impressed me, and I discover many things very different from let's say the stereotype, or like the idea we have of what I would call maybe sub-Saharan Africa. So so probably the first thing is around security. In general, before leaving from Europe, I had this feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to war.
Mm.
So there is a lot of psychological stress around, oh, you're going to Africa, you cannot drink water, you have to be careful about the mosquitoes, the malaria, the insecurity, and so on. Whereas when I went there, I had the great opportunity of also meeting a lot of people that some expats and some also locals that were, of course, living there. And it's like at the end of the day, they are living a normal life. So there is nothing like, it's not too much, let's say, insecurity. There are some risks and there are some different rules, let's say, but it's not something that dramatic as I was expecting, or at least as was shown when I was in Europe. So, and in general, I think I don't know, just the warmth. I would say, as a general, that also the warmth of people, the weather, it's amazing. The people I met, that are so different from us, not us, like so different from me in so many ways. So one of the things that I let's say, one of the differences from my let's say European life is I met many expats also when I was in Strasbourg, when I was living in Strasbourg. Also when I was living in Italy, I've always been, let's say, hanging out with expats or foreigners and so on. But maybe the difference is like the people I met in Nairobi are people that have a very diverse background, very diverse experience. Most of the people that are like, especially most of the Westerns, or like the expats that are in Africa, they are there because they want to. So it's kind of like, it's a different vibe. I don't know if I can explain it.
So tell me about some of those initial experiences when you got to where you're living in Kigali in Rwanda. You mentioned that
Yeah.
it's some things are much more normal than you expected them to be, and others are quite different. So can you take me through a few of those and what you remember your first impressions to be?
Yes, yes. I think so. When I first arrived in Kigali, I was coming already with a small knowledge, let's say, of Nairobi, because I told you that I was there. At the beginning, I was there for travel, and then I also was there like briefly for working.
So you had a
So
little
I
bit of
had,
familiarity.
yes, I had a
Yeah.
little bit of exposure of Nairobi and Kenya. The only thing I knew about Rwanda was through my Kenyan friends, and they all told me like, "Oh, Rwanda is like the Switzerland of Africa. It's very easy, it's clean, it's safe." So I already had this kind of maybe positive bias over the country.
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking, okay, and especially as the first job in the continent, I was thinking, okay, could be like a first, a good first job, or like a good beginning. And I think especially I was thinking about my family and my mom, telling her I'm moving,
It's a soft
I'm
landing for your
moving so
parents.
far. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, don't worry, Rwanda is very
I'm going
safe,
to the
you know.
Switzerland of Africa.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But yeah, so the reality is that it is a very safe country. It is a very clean, and it is quite efficient in many ways. I think maybe like the first week I was in Kigali, I went to buy the SIM card, and all the people were queuing outside the shop. And of course it was still like it was last year, so like maintaining the distance and queuing in the shop. And me as an Italian, I was there like, what is these people doing? Like nobody's cutting the line, nobody is like jumping on each other. So it was kind of like a cultural shock. Of course I'm joking, but it is actually a very uh, I want to say it is a uh, very easy place. So maybe to my expectation was to start a more disruptive experience. And actually, already since the first month, I understood that it was not going to be that disruptive. So many things that they're actually working. I think even better than Europe sometimes.
Interesting. I do remember when you first moved there, you were sharing videos of your new accommodation on social media. What can you tell me about how people live in Kigali and how that might differ from living in Italy or France?
What I see in Kigali is, in general, there are not a lot of tall buildings, apartments, and so on. Like in general, they have like small houses or small houses, and most of the city you have this kind of houses in a compound with garden and so on. So actually, we have a lot of space. I think like we are privileged enough. Right now, I'm sharing a house with two other people. We have 4 rooms, so we even have like one guest room. We have everyone has own bathroom, big living room, kitchen, and we have the garden. And most of the people I know are living in the same condition. Of course, it's like this is the most of the people I know are in the expat bubble. So,
I
but
was
if
going
you
to
go around the
ask,
city,
is this kind of like the
yeah,
way foreigners in Kigali live, or is this also the way that locals live?
I think I think in Kigali, uh, also a lot of locals live like that.
Hmm.
So even my friends, I have friends, Rwandans, and also Kenyans, Ugandans. Most of them they live in a house, maybe shared house. But this is like, even if you go around the city, you see a lot of the city mainly is like these houses with garden and compounds and so on. Then you have like the town, what we call the town area, where you have like some tall buildings and also some kind of like more populated neighborhoods. In general, there is a lot of nature everywhere, but also there are some areas that are actually parks. Today I told you I was going for a run. So in this neighborhood we have like a big it's a runabout actually, but it's like within the runabout there is a park. So like a
Oh,
lot of
cool.
people they just go
That
around.
must be a very big roundabout.
Yeah, it is quite big. It is quite big. At least I like to tell myself, since I'm using it as exercising, it's big enough for me to not to feel guilty about about the exercise. So yeah.
So you mentioned that Rwanda is kind of the Switzerland of Africa and it's quite safe in that sense. And, you said you just went for a run. So you can be out on the streets, for example, by yourself as a white woman in Africa and not feel unsafe.
Yes, definitely. I feel safer here than in Europe. 100%. I've been walking in the street at every time of the day and the night. I've been walking alone with friends. My personal experience, there is, and also from the people I know, it is very safe. And it's not just our neighborhood. It's like I am living in a more like I'm living in a neighborhood where there are a lot of expats live because there are a few bars, a few cafes, so it's kind of like more expat area compared to other neighborhoods. But in general, we can walk safely, no problem. Like during the night also, but in general, there is a lot of police around, some traffic police and some just like security. So it's quite interesting because here like you feel safe, and sometimes when I see the police in Europe, I'm not feeling that safe. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal feeling, but the security is very important and is very high here.
And what do you do for fun in Kigali? Do you have nightclubs and bars and places to
Yeah.
go out with your work colleagues and friends?
Yes, yes, yes. This is like probably like I understand where your question is coming from, and I think also
What do
this is why
people
I
do for
wanted
fun
to.
in Kigali?
I mean, it's a normal city, so it's not like the craziest. It's not the craziest city in Africa. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I spent a weekend in Kampala in Uganda, and I can tell you 100% is more crazy, it's more party, there's more vibes. But yeah, there are clubs here and bars, and I know there are like salsa events. There are the movies. Saturday, I went to this Kinyarwanda rap concert. So Kinyarwanda is the language they speak here, the local language. So a rap concert was very interesting. Actually, the music
Cool.
was quite good. Yeah,
And how's your local language?
the choice I made when I arrived here was not to learn the language.
Okay.
I know it is I know it's not a good choice. I know.
It's
Well, I
not a
mean, I
good
say some
expat
words.
choice to make.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
But okay, to save myself, I'm actually learning Swahili, and the Swahili is one of the most spoken language in East Africa. And even here in Rwanda, a lot of people, Kenya Rwanda is the local language, but a lot of people also for in the shops or like the motor drivers or the taxi driver, they also speak Swahili because it's the language also spoken in RDC and also some part of Burundi and also of course in Tanzania and Kenya that are Tanzania is next here and Kenya is still very close.
so you're being
So
more
my choice was
strategic in the
yes,
language you're choosing to learn.
exactly, exactly. So of course I know some words in Kinyarwanda. Amakuru is how are you? Imeza well. And then I know how to ask for the cold water. Imazi ikonje, because here you always have to specify when you want something cold. So if you want the beer, they will ask you warm or cold. If you want the water, warm or cold. So I always specified cold. So
Beer,
yeah,
warm beer?
yeah. Actually, some of my friends they drink warm beer because they're like, today is a little chill. Let me it's chilly. Let me just drink the warm beer. I'm like, okay, you do you.
Gonna have to try that next winter and see how it goes down.
Yeah. Also because when it's chilly in Kigali, it means that it's like 18 degrees. So
Oh my gosh.
not
Not the weather
good.
for warm beer, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And is it common for people to then speak English? How are you getting by day to day?
Historically, Rwanda used to be a Belgian colony. So the, let's say, official language was French, of course, other than Kinyarwanda. Uh, what I heard, not 100%, so maybe you can go Google it, which I didn't, but what I heard is what happened was the president in the beginning of 2000, like 2003, was decided to make the country more international and to open up also, like, I think they also joined the Commonwealth, so to try to boost also the relationship more international. So he decided to have English as one of the official languages. Most of the young people, they speak English. I mean, as an Italian, I don't feel like I should judge their English because also Italians don't speak very good English. Let's say that there is a struggle for English, but most of the people, they speak pretty good, like good enough to understand. And my experience, like the older people, they speak French. So for me, I speak French. For example, my landlord, he prefers to speak French. Or some people in my office, the administrative and so on, I see that when I speak French to them, it's kind of easier to understand each other. Or in general, they appreciate, they prefer to speak French because originally that's what they studied. Yeah.
So all your languages are really coming in handy, except the Italian.
Except the Italian, yeah. Yeah, the Italian would actually come very in handy in Kenya, where I discovered there are a lot of Italians on the coast and a lot of people, a lot of Kenyans speak Italian.
Oh, wow. I did not know this.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
fascinating. If you're learning Swahili, it sounds like you're feeling pretty comfortable there and you're going to stay for a while, perhaps.
I don't know about that. I mean, yes, I'm feeling comfortable. Yes, I decided. So initially, my staying here was supposed to be 2 years. So until December 2022. I decided to stay another year, and I found an opportunity. And if everything goes right, I will be moving to Nairobi, to Kenya. So this is the plan for next year. So from December this year on, I will be for another year in Kenya. So yes, I don't know. I think I am deciding step by step, time by time.
Not thinking too far into the future.
Yes, yes. So it is interesting because I've always been very attracted by this indefinite work contract. And especially when I was living in Italy, when I was working in Italy with this kind of contract. And before moving to France, I wanted to make sure that I had indefinite contract.
Because it's
And
job
now,
and life security, right? Like that's the
yes,
motivation behind it. Yeah.
yes, exactly, exactly. And now I am feeling the opposite. I'm feeling good about having a deadline. So I'm feeling good about knowing, okay, I have my contract until the end of this year, and then we'll see. And now I have my contract until the end of 2023, and then I will see.
And
So it's different.
did that take a bit of a mindset shift when you've come from, always seeing indefinite work contracts, for example, as secure and the stable path to take, and now you're on what sounds like rolling kind of fixed term contracts?
Yeah. It is a mindset shift, but in my case, I think it has had to be like that because what happened was I spent quite few time, few not few years, but months, very unhappy with my previous job. And I made the decision to take first a sabbatical and then to do this kind of life change. And when I made that decision, I felt okay. I felt freed. I felt free, and also from this kind of like secure life. Because sometimes the fact of having a secure situation, it's good, but also it is blocking you from actually doing something that you want to do, or even blocking you from escaping something that is making you feel miserable. You need to force yourself to go out of the comfort zone. I'm a big believer that when you are out of your comfort zone, that's where the growing space is. And you can be comfortable for many years and yeah, unhappy or not not growing the speed you would like to.
What elements of living in Africa make you aware that you are outside of your comfort zone?
Work related example, um, especially in the last 8 years, 9 years of my life, I've been living and I've been working for multinational American multinational companies, and the culture in these companies sometimes is quite it gets you, it gets on you. So one thing that you have to do at your job, you have to do, but like you learn to do at your job, is how to shine. So how to, like, for example, if there is a situation where someone has to make a presentation, let's say if you're working in these multinational companies, normally it's like it's well seen if you are taking the step and doing the presentation, because the people will see you and it is an opportunity for you to shine.
And to be seen by the
I
right people. Yeah.
exactly. And so we were having this workshop a couple of months ago in Ghana. With it was a Pan-African workshop. So we had our team from Rwanda that was managing, coordinating the workshop, and then we had participants from all different countries. So we had someone from Ghana, someone from Nigeria, from Kenya, and so on. And we did this work group. And at the end of the work group, of course, someone had to do the presentation. Nobody was standing up to do the presentation. And my colleague kind of pushed quite hard someone else to do the presentation. So after I was talking to him and I was telling him, but that could have been a good opportunity for you to shine and to show, because there were also some directors. Would have been a good opportunity for you to show to the directors that you can do this presentation and so on. And he answered me, yes, don't worry, there's going to be an opportunity for me, but for me in this moment was more important to have someone of the participant to feel the belonging and to do that. So this is why I pushed someone else. So it is kind of different perspective, you see. And when you say that, it actually makes a lot of sense, because a lot of time you are doing a work group, but you are staying kind of passive and you don't feel the belonging, you don't feel like you are part of it. For me, this was just an example of a different perspective of coming with the way I was taught to work. It's more, I want to say, maybe more individualistic. And in this case, it was more around sharing, but really sharing.
More
So
collective.
yeah,
Yeah, more about the
more
group.
collective.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, more about the group, also more about seeing the people in the group, and also kind of raising, like helping someone to shine.
I'm sure our listeners will be curious to know what you're doing for work over in Africa and what opportunities you see for other foreigners who might be interested in following your footsteps.
I think the maybe this is kind of like the misconception is when European go to Africa, I think most of the time you think that we are going as volunteers, maybe in some remote villages
Maybe to
to
help
help
save those
building
children.
houses.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, I think in that case, like there is a whole
Oh, and like
whole
that
chapter to open, but
that work
I will
completely
not go
exists
there.
and it's completely valid, but it's not what you're doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not what I'm doing. What I'm personally doing is I'm working as a digital advisor. So I am I'm working for the International Cooperation Agency of Germany. And the work I'm doing is I am supporting a local company in like in knowledge sharing, best practices. The objective of the role is called capacity building. So the idea of this role is I come to Kigali. I am working with a partner organization for a couple of years. My contract was 2 years, but okay, can be up to 6 years. And we work together. I support the organization, and I make sure that the work I'm doing is sustainable. So I don't want to say the word teaching. I don't want to say the word teaching because there is not a teaching, is a sharing of knowledge, of best practices, and also me, I am getting a lot. And the idea of this role is temporary because the idea is for me to come back to Europe with the experience that I grow here. So it is more like supporting and working together, collaborating on different projects. My case is I'm working in digital, and I am supporting projects in the e-commerce area, e-commerce and e-payment area. So yeah, this is what I'm doing.
And do you see a lot of opportunities for other expats, other foreigners in Africa? And I guess by opportunities, I mean a career opportunity, not just, I mean, it's definitely it sounds amazingly personally fulfilling, but there are
Yeah.
people who are just driven by great career opportunities abroad. Is Kigali one of those destinations too?
You have all different kind of opportunities here in Kigali. Specifically, actually, actually Rwanda is putting a lot of effort in boosting investments, helping startups. There are many startups in Kigali, also digital startups. So there are a lot of like good opportunities, let's say, for someone that wants to either start a business, either like have a career. There are also like some companies that are here based here. um, it all depends what's your background. It all depends what is your interest. You also have an NGO. You can decide to have a career in the NGO. You can decide to have a career in the UN, or you can decide to have a career in different companies, private. For example, my housemate is working in a solar panel company. So it's a company that is building solar panel and is selling here in he works in Kigali, so here in Rwanda, but also they also have offices and also a business in other countries. A friend of mine, he actually work for this company. Is a Rwandan company, and they are building electrical motorcycle. So he's an electrical engineer, and he's having like career in the private sector here in Rwanda.
It sounds a lot more dynamic than I think I had a picture of Rwanda being in my head, and I'm sure a lot of other people would have as well.
It is a very interesting place to be. There are work opportunities. So yeah, it's a safe country. It is growing. The economy is growing. The opportunities are growing. There is a lot of effort and a lot of investments ongoing in the country. At least this is what I see.
Julia, you said at the start of our conversation that you really didn't know much about Rwanda before you came to Rwanda for work. What advice would you give others who might be looking at opportunities in Rwanda?
So I think the advice that I would give to anyone that is looking for opportunities out of their world or their comfort zone is really to come with open mind. To if you want to move to Rwanda, welcome. Come here with the open mind. Come here with trying to understand, trying to listen. Like leave your bias in Europe. Like we have plenty of them, and even in Europe, we should remove them, of course. But if you're coming here, just leave them there. And as I told you at the beginning, for me, for some things are working better here compared to where I come from. Some things, of course, are also there are some frustration. Sometimes you're not like able to communicate properly, or sometimes like one thing that is kind of frustrate me is that in general people they don't like to say no. So this is sometimes when you are in a conflict area, or like when you ask for something and so on, sometimes they say yes, 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 and then they do whatever they want to do. So this is like an example of something that can be frustrating for someone that is actually used to have like direct conversation. So there are some things that are of course that are different, and that we need to accept and to try to understand.
You have had a lot of experiences in your time in Rwanda, and one of them has been with the medical system. So tell me what happened.
Yes, actually the what happened was in Zanzibar in Tanzania. I had a small accident. I was on a boat, and my hand was leaning outside the boat, and the boat hit a pole, and my finger was in the middle. So I had open wound, broken bone, and everything. The moment
Oh,
I saw it, I was rushed to the hospital. Um, yeah, so it was my first time ever having an accident, and it was my first time ever going to surgery, going to a hospital in emergency and surgery. And of course, the first thing you think in your mind is, why is it happening here in
of all
Africa?
places in the world. Will I be okay? I think that's
Yeah,
what I would be thinking.
yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, I was scared in general, but yeah, also the fact of being so far from home, and you don't know, right?
Mm.
So long story short, I was lucky enough to have a very good tour guide that while we were driving to the hospital, he was already calling the doctor and like making sure that the doctors were there and so on. He brought me to the private hospital instead of the public one, so I had the kind of uh, I had the possibility to have like kind of better, I guess, better surgery. And actually, the surgery was very good. And I was then repatriated to Italy, and I checked with the different Italian doctors, and they told me that they did a great job. And long story short, I have my finger. It's here. There is
Oh,
the
thank
nail. You can
goodness.
see it's a little weird, but it's perfect. It's beautiful. And now I have a story to say of how I went in a surgery in Zanzibar.
Wow. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
your finger is still attached.
Yes, I'm glad too. So it was overall a good experience. Also, that the Italian doctor told me that he saw someone in Italy getting a worse surgery than mine. So I was thinking, okay, if it happened in Bologna, it could have been worse. So
And did you have to pay for it?
yeah, I mean, every time you are outside Europe, and like if you go to emergency and so on, you pay first, and then they do something. So I had to pay. I think the surgery was like around 500 euros, and then I did everything. I asked for the reimbursement to the insurance, and the insurance paid me back. So yeah.
I have one last question. What is your favorite food discovery, food or drink discovery in Rwanda? And what are you missing the most about Italian food or drink?
This is a sad question.
Oh, I'm
The food,
sorry.
no, no worries. The food here is not great. It's good.
Oh,
I mean, like we have in Kigali, we have plenty of restaurants, local, international. So basically, it's difficult to miss something. Uh, as an Italian, I'm always, I think maybe I'm too spoiled. So I always have high standard. In general, the food here is not, I'm not really happy with the food here.
you're just
Um,
a food
yeah,
snob.
I am definitely. I, I go with the stereotype, yes. Actually, one of my favorite food here is I'm eating quite often is it is actually Kenyan. It's called nyama choma, and it's grilled goat meat. And yeah, so that's something I really enjoy. Other than that, I mean, here local food there is a lot of beans, rice, potatoes, cabbage. So it's kind of like North Europe style of food. I want to say. What I'm missing the most is definitely seafood because if you look where is Rwanda on the map,
You're a bit landlocked.
yeah, yes, yes. So they have fish from the lakes, but I'm coming from the sea. I always loved seafood. For me, the fish from the lake, I eat it,
It's not
but
the
it's not
same.
the same. No.
I have to ask, how do you go about getting a good espresso?
Ah, I'm sorry, I am not one of those Italians. I guess this stereotype doesn't work for me.
You don't drink coffee?
I don't, okay, two things. First, I don't drink espresso. I drink coffee sometimes. I'm not a coffee lover really. And second, fun fact, Rwanda actually has very,
Good
very, very
coffee.
good coffee.
I was
Yeah.
I was thinking that they actually produce pretty good coffee, don't they?
Yes,
But
they
you
do.
can't tell
And
me how great it is.
I cannot, but because I have a friend, he works with a coffee producer. He's Italian, and he was doing a few weeks ago this espresso tasting here in Kigali. And I was kind of like joking, like, ah, ha, ha. And he was like, no, 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 actually, is really like next level coffee. Like, okay,
Wow.
if you say so, I trust you. He was one of those Italian that drinks coffee. But okay, full disclosure, I buy my Nutella in Italy. So I come with the Nutella in my luggage. You know, the chocolate
Nutella.
spread.
You brought
Yeah.
Nutella. You can't get Nutella in Kigali.
No, yes, you can get it, but it's more expensive and it's not the Italian produced one. Only in Italy
Right.
we have the Italian produced Nutella, which is the best.
Fair.
Yes.
Well, Julia, it has been fascinating to speak to you about living and working in Rwanda. Thanks so much for sharing on the Expat Focus podcast.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
That's it for this episode. If you want to hear more from expats in Africa, search our podcast archive for my interview with Rachel Jones, who talks about raising third culture kids in Djibouti. If you have an expat story to tell, or a city or country that you'd love to hear more about, drop us a message on social media. We are Expat Focus. I'll catch you next time.